Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. This is your hub for engaging in deep conversations around serotonergic hallucinogens that alter perceptions, affect cognitive processes, induce mystical and spiritual experiences. Enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Psychedelic Conversations podcast. I have with me a very special guest from Slovenia, and his name is Changal. Let me just quickly introduce you to him, and I just want to say welcome to the podcast also, Changal. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to participate in this podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm very honored to share my experience and my story about psychedelics and theogens and everything together.
I have a really strong sense you are the perfect person to talk about these medicines in this space. So thank you. Just want to quickly introduce you to our listeners. So Changal is a facilitator of Bufo Alvarius, Cambo and Ayahuasca medicine. He is also an artist, builder and a farmer. So he was introduced to the psychedelics at the age of 9, and he's been exploring the entheogenic states for about over 17 years now. He also lives in a 1 hectare land where he's building a regenerative community healing farm, which I'm truly interested in this, and we'll probably talk about this in a moment. And you also travel around offering your medicine, Bufo Medicine, around the globe. So Changal's attitude towards psychedelics is it's entheogenic medicines are, medicine for life. And he has a shamanic approach and perspective. And he calls them best allied teacher and pure consciousness in self. So these are amazing concepts that we can definitely dive into. So let's begin with your story. You seem so young, and how did you, and for someone who's been exploring entheogenic states for 17 years, I think you, as you said earlier, also mentioned that you started at age of 9. Can you take us back how your story began?
My story basically began when I was 9 years old with cannabis, to say. Basically, all the plants that I met in my life came to me by itself, by outside factor, to say, not that I would search for them, but they came by itself. So at the age of 12, I basically met magic mushrooms, and I started to explore more deeply myself with these tools, to say, because every time I experienced these states, I felt more myself, more connected to myself.
But you were, can I just say, was this like a recreational at first? Did you understand?
At first, we even didn't understand what is recreational or ceremonial or any type of use.
Mm-hmm.
We were so young that basically we just used them, to say. So, and our use was normally in nature. We ate mushrooms and went into walks in nature, looking into trees, waters, different kind of environment. And from my perspective, it was exactly the opposite what society was telling us about these substances. And after years of exploring with magic mushrooms, I also experienced other drugs, to say, cocaine, speed, MDMA. So after years of exploring, to say, myself and surroundings, I started to realize what real medicine is. So with our company, with my family, basically, to say, we went back to nature and started to experience back magic mushrooms. That was around when I was 17, 18 years old. And the company I was involved basically introduced other psychedelic gurus, to say. I heard when I was 17 years old about Terence Mckenna. And when I went to listen about his experiences, I was astounded, to say, because that was exactly what we were searching. But back then, we didn't know about the dosages so much. In our society, they say that there are two types of magic mushrooms. One are hallucinogenic and one are that you laugh from them. And we didn't understand this concept. But after years, when you explore, you see basically all magic mushrooms are the same. It's just about the dosage. So in these years, I gathered about a lot of knowledge, basically about entheogens, about psychedelics, generally how they act in us, how they connect different parts of our psyche, soul, and emotions. And to say even the synthetic psychedelics like 2CB have medical properties. You can also work on some aspects of self, but it's not like ayahuasca or Bufo that work on the whole spectrum of ourselves, not just mind or body, but soul, body, mind, whole spectrum in one experience. And that I saw also difference between synthetic 5-MeO-DMT and Bufo Alvarius. There is a lot of talk about synthetic versus natural, but for my sense, this is basically not productive talk to talk about, because it's like science versus spirituality. And these are two different poles of understanding, to say.
Yeah.
And with Bufo Medicine, I started to learn about oneness, to say, about interconnectedness with every small thing that is present in our life, in our everyday basic consciousness, to say. And we went last years, we went so deep with these medicines that basically we tried to combine Bufo and ayahuasca together. And there are known ceremonies in Mexico that are called Sapohuasca, that you smoke next day from ayahuasca, Bufo Alvarius. But we try to combine in ayahuasca ceremony. And with these experiences was for me one of the most deep experiences of my life, to to connect with this primal spirit that we all possess, to say it's present in all of us.
Wow.
And this experience is basically connected very much to, say, to an animistic way of perceiving reality, where you can see all beings are sentient, to say even the trees are living beings, even the water, even the rocks, every part have this spark in self that we basically call consciousness.
Wow, that's so deep. Thank you for sharing. I want to ask you so many questions. You shared so much. I want to go back to the beginning. And you said you started this. So I am having this image of you as a child in Slovenia, running around in the nature with maybe your friends, your age group, maybe siblings, family members, just picking mushrooms from nature and just doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? In the most natural habitat. It's a natural habitat. And I'm hearing that this was a family affair for all of you to take this path of the entheogenic medicines. I want to ask some questions about your parents. They must have been very open-minded.
Exactly, yeah. I first experienced that basically happened between me and my parents was when I came home on MDMA, where I was open to my feelings, to love, to say, open to love. And I was expressing everything. I was always open about my experiences in life to my parents. So I basically told what I was going through and how are the effects from MDMA. So they started to get interested basically into these medicines. So we introduced them first MDMA, then magic mushrooms, where my father had extremely transformative experience in the year of 2012.
Wow, and that's a very, very that's a strong date on the calendar. We know
Exactly.
so many people had transformative experiences in 2012, right? Go on, please carry on.
For him, this experience completely changed his life, to say. Before, he was a businessman running businesses, but afterwards, he said that he have enough of this life, to say, this system that we are living in, and say to us, younger generation, what we should do in life. And when we were like 22 years old, we say the best thing is that we find the land, we build ourselves a house and start to make ourselves vegetables and fruits and start to live self-sustainable. So we received some income that we could afford this land, and we literally went in when I was 24 years old. We went to this land where I basically get also very sick from Lyme disease, where my medicine path started to go a little bit deeper, to say.
Wow.
And in this time, these 6 years for me was a lifetime by itself, where when we started to change our whole reality about how we are living, how we treat our environment, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people, is a whole journey, to say. It's a very deep process of a transformation of our consciousness, of our perception.
Wow.
And each day is, to say, a blessing itself to be here.
That's amazing. So, and I think your courage and your bravery in exploring these medicines kind of planted seeds in, you know, your family ancestral way of life that changed the whole trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it incredible? Do you have any sisters, brothers?
I have a brother, yeah.
And how is his relationship with the medicines?
With medicines. He just invited me to share another time with him, Bufo Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
He found a beautiful cave near the place he's living and invited me to smoke another time.
Together. It's definitely a family affair in your life, seems like. What a blessing. Not long ago, I wrote a really short blog about just an inspiration of what if psychedelics were a family affair? What if we can all sit together? Because I was really inspired by the Mazatec tribes, where they do ceremonies
together
with their children, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings. It was beautiful. So I was inspired, and I was thinking, what if we can do that in the West?
It's possible.
Absolutely.
It's possible.
Just quick question: your brother's younger than you or older?
No, 5 years older.
Older. Okay, great. So you told me about mixing Bufo and ayahuasca. And I heard many people talk about not to mix any of these entheogenics. Tell me what your thoughts are.
My thoughts are about this. It's best to say this, that it's not good to mix. From my perspective, I don't recommend anyone to mix these two medicines together until his body, because we think that we started to get used of ayahuasca, but our body needs its time that gets used of these substances. Is literally, as Westerners, when we start to drink ayahuasca, it's like something totally out of space for our organism. We are not used to drink trees, to say. And all these tannins and all the substances just present in one medicine, our body literally needs to get used to. That's why also in the experiences, when we take a high dosage of mushrooms or LSD, ayahuasca, any kind of medicine, there's a point where we get a thought, I'm gonna die. And this thought, we many times think that comes from us, but basically comes from our body. Many times our body sends signals in a form of thoughts. And it's a process itself that our body starts to recognize this as medicine, that it says, that our body says, I'm used to it. I know what this is. It's good for me. Let's go further.
I hear it, that this is a spiritual, a lot of people talk about spiritual death process. So what you're talking about is that fear of facing your death through the entheogenic medicines. And thank you for saying that you need to give yourself a time. And I want to also reinforce for our listeners that you've been in this space for since the age of 9. You were a child. So, and I come from a holistic psychotherapy background. And when we do therapy, we never throw anyone into deep work on day one. And the things that we want to say on day one, we always say them, we wait, and we say to the person when it's day 100. And there is this concept of building capacity. So it's the same for the medicine. And I'm hearing you just explain to me the same process that humans, we need to build capacity in order to contain such powerful experiences. And if we don't, it could be detrimental to health.
Exactly. And happened to me before years. I was exploring LSD. And I went to experience 1,200 micrograms of LSD. And in that experience, basically, I was not ready for such knowledge, to say, about myself.
Wow.
And before experience, I asked myself, who am I? And took LSD.
Intentions, right?
Intentions. And in that experience went so deep that I could not hold this knowledge of being this, to say everything, that we are everything. And it was a journey that lasted 3 years.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. This shows us how serious and how important and how we need to approach these medicines. They shouldn't be used lightly and recreationally, because I have an issue with recreational use. I don't mind if you want to uplift, but I always have an issue when it's used just to, because they are bored of their reality or want to escape.
Exactly. And basically, they cannot be used for this, because every time a person who wants to use them for such intention or such use is the experience shows you that cannot be abused, to say. We cannot abuse these substances. I know people that took LSD just once and was not the right intention, and they didn't went into experience anymore.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a powerful experience that gets integrated by years, not by months. And if we want to integrate, we cannot do much, because the time and itself, our consciousness needs to get ripened, to say, to get more experiences from life itself.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks. I just want to say one thing and also ask your thoughts about. So these powerful substances been around beginning of time. Somehow we've been cut off at some point, and a lot of people that I listen to, they say it's because of the industrial age, when we transitioned into more modern day, technological advancement and so on. And like you said, your father had such transformative experience. He had to quit the known. So do you think while we've gone through this process, we also disconnected from how these medicines, to understand how these medicines affect us? Like you said, I mean, I worked with a really, really professional and authentic shaman, and she always says when she first carried her medicine in Europe, she struggled a lot because she forgotten, because she's indigenous, and she forgotten how the Westerners perceive these medicines. And almost every ceremony, they just wanted to get high, and she was really disturbed by this, because she still comes from an indigenous, Peruvian Amazon, and she still preserves this respect, humility, understanding, intention, setting all these important things. But then she would carry this medicine in Europe and really be astonished by the way people approach these as such recreational and just wanted to escape rather than do the work.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts? Because you travel with your medicine. Tell me your experiences.
It's the same. For me, when I came to South America, it was a blessing for me. With people, with how they already have this basic knowledge about the medicines. Yeah. But there are everywhere basically the same type of people who are still on the journey, to say. This is a whole journey where we need to get understanding about ourselves. If we don't get it in this life, maybe we will get it in next. And for my perspective, the Bufo Medicine was so powerful catalyst for so many people that they started to realize what is the medicine work. That when the process comes, where the force comes from medicine, not that we get scared of it and run away from our shadow, basically, but that we face it. And Bufo is the most powerful tool to say, to face our shadow. If we are ready or not, we will face it. But that's the aspect of nowadays of facilitators around the world who serve Bufo medicine that give so powerful dosages that they just push people inside these powerful states, and afterwards they don't have any support in their life, and they experience reactivations and different kind of imbalances, to say. And I basically developed a safe journey into these states of consciousness. Basically, step by step. It's like climbing a ladder, not just going into the deep waters, but slowly, that we can experience swimming, not drowning inside.
Yeah, keeps making me think of the capacity. So you found a way to build that inside. Because if people, from the Western world come with this perception of, okay, these are just drugs to get me high, and then they're just thrown into this experience of facing themselves. I'm sure there are so many, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to have these conversations, because right now, because of our digital age, because we're in this digital age, people are flocking to these experiences because it's a trend, or it's that because they read it or heard on YouTube or read on some Google article. So tell me what other like harm reductions, like I know the integration is almost unknown. Most people don't even understand what integration is.
Yes.
And you just and I love that you said earlier your LSD experience was a whole 3 years experience, not just the one time LSD, but took you 3 years to really get a grasp. This is what we're dealing with. So tell us what this how can we make this, how can we put it out there that people really understand the integration process? Is probably the most
integration process. For me, the integration process came when I started to listen to myself. What the experience was telling me, I started to listen to myself. And the more I listened to myself, the more the experiences went into integration. And for example, the 1,200 micrograms of LSD experience went into this knowing and this knowledge of what I am. And basically it came to being a medicine carrier. And I didn't accept this. And after 1.5 years, I went on ayahuasca, where the same experience happened just by one guy saying a word, telepathy. This word bring me to a same state where I was on LSD. And the same experience was like a flashback in a moment into a same state where I didn't accept this. I was resisting this. And the next day when I came home, my wife looked at my leg and she saw a spot, red spot that is well known for Lyme disease. And my medicine journey went after there for 1 year. Combo application. First was 4 applications in 1 month, where Lyme disease disabled me so much that I barely talked, I barely moved, I was literally like a zombie and could not build, could not work, like nothing from me. After 2 experiences with Kambo, the physical health came back to me. And after 4 experiences with Kambo, I started to move my face back, started to talk normal. And the medicine journey lasted like 1 year. And I started to get healthy mentally and physically. But my spiritual side was literally dying. I didn't care for life, to say. And in that time, I met a Mexican doctor who brought Bufo to Slovenia. And that experience with Bufo, first time when I smoked it, basically integrated the experience with LSD.
Wow.
It lasted so long. And basically, after years of experiences now with ayahuasca, Bufo, and Kambo, I'm seeing basically that integration happens every time we take another experience. And in that part, we integrate the experience that happened to us before and even get new information that we can work on until we will be ready for the next experience. Because basically we think that we are in control, that we control our life. And with these experiences, we see we are never in control.
Yeah.
That always there's a higher power that guides us, that we get exactly what we need in each moment in our life.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of trusting the unfolding.
Exactly.
So the integration, just want to reinforce, integration can be years long of exploration of the self, integrating the knowledge, understanding the wisdom that comes from these plants, and also accepting, trusting the unfolding with humility and respect. These are the words that come to my mind when you explain your journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with a lot of work.
Of course, self-work is never easy.
Self-work, and basically a lot of work on the land, with ground, just basically putting our hands in the ground makes integration process like for 50% better. If we would connect with nature more and just being bare feet in the nature,
Wow.
every day for few hours is helping integration.
Yeah,
Because basically, if we would like to integrate these experiences with ayahuasca and Bufo, we would need to start living tribal life. That's the main message of this medicine.
What did they ask us? What did they teach us or tell us to do? Go back to the natural way of living?
Yeah, for me was always go back to nature. You are nature, not a part of nature. That was for me the main message from every experience.
But why do you think the technological advancement then? What's the purpose of behind the whole, such advancement in technology? Any messages? Why is this happening? It's almost like two different worlds apart. There's a pull and push. Like there's one side of the whole planet is moving forward so advanced. I mean, we're talking about AIs, we're talking about quantum computers next. And then on the other hand, we have entheogenic medicines telling us, no, come back to nature, come back to your origin. What are your thoughts on
that? My thoughts were to say we are embracing technology also, to say. I'm not resisting technology. I'm even allowing my kids to play video games because also I played video games. I'm the generation of Super Mario, to say. And for my perspective, a video game or technology never made a bad thing to myself. Just how our governments, how our leaders, to say, are using and abusing the technologies.
I love that.
We are using atomic energy for atomic bombs instead of supplying all the people around the world with free energy, to say. And it's about just realizing we are living in such state of world that we start to realize in what state we are living, that we don't have our relationships the right way. We don't respect each other, to say, in societies. We are not all on flat surface, to say, where all the people are connected. And the main thing is, when I was growing up, our society is basically shown as connected, as all races connected, like we are holding hands with each other all around the world. But when you grow up, you basically see that is completely the opposite. And for medical systems, we put our life away from families on these planes. We put children in hospitals and we put our dying persons in hospitals. And I experienced basically, my first son was born in hospital and the second son was born home, just by help from two nurses. And it's like two different worlds, to say. Even just recently, my mother passed away, and she was present at home, to say. And this experience of just being present at birth in a loving environment can change some people's perspective about life. And
this is beautiful.
Even being present in the moments of a loved dying person can change the perspective about life itself.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. I think we've forgotten, we've moved on so far away from all of these
True.
beautiful experiences that makes us human. I mean, I know I heard a tribe in one part of the world where women, they so the child's age begins from the moment she decides to be a mother. The intention. Yeah, and then once she conceives the baby, throughout the pregnancy, she's loved, accepted by the tribe, she's looked after. And then the moment of the birth, she goes and she digs a hole in the ground, and she goes through the process herself with trust, courage. It's a rites of passage, right? It's a death and a rebirth in every single way. And she pays her respect to the placenta, buries the placenta with prayer, and brings the child back on her chest to the tribe, where she is now no longer a young woman who's just gone through a birth, but she's now a mother, changed completely, perception, life, reality.
True.
That's a rites of passage, and we've forgotten all of these. I truly agree with you, and I just want to reinforce for the listeners what you said earlier. I love technology. You see, technology enabled us to do this together. You're in another part of the world and I am.
Exactly.
And we share this sacred moment.
We would not be able to drink ayahuasca without technology. We would not be able to travel around the world as we do today.
Yeah. So, and I love what you said earlier. It's about the intention and how do we use the technology? What's the intention? Is it to connect the humanity together and grow and thrive? And
intention.
And
art.
Art, music changes the world, right? Art and music changes consciousness, right? And again, coming back to the medicines, with intention, the medicine is the medicine, becomes the medicine, healing medicine. And before we go on to your regenerative farm, healing farm, can we talk about you are offering, or you worked with 3 main medicines, Kambo, Bufo, and Ayahuasca. Just for the listeners, for the record, can you talk to us about Kambo first, what it is? All I know is that it's a vaccine from the Amazon. I've had my first experience with Kambo, actually, so I'm just so blessed to have a really beautiful friend in the UK offers this medicine to people. So tell us, let's start with Kambo just quickly. What is it from your perspective? Because I want to know how do you see these medicines and what are your explanations?
I see these medicines as great tools of connections with self. Kambo itself is a great tool to experience physical cleaning and also realignment of our psyche and spiritual parts and emotions and thoughts and different kind of aspects of ourself gets cleared, to say, more clear. And is a giant monkey frog, Philomedusa bicolor, is a beautiful frog from Amazon forest. It's a frog that doesn't have predators, so he doesn't experience any stress or any threat from nature. So they are totally relaxed all the time in their life.
Is it because of the medicine he carries on his back?
And the medicine, yeah.
So the medicine comes from his body, right?
From body, yeah. You have different kind of methods of collecting, and we are most used of the method where they take sticks and where they tie the legs and they poke the frog. But you have also some tribes that collect more humanly, to say, with water and with hands.
Wow.
So the medicine is also from each collector, the medicine is different, to say how the medicine is collected and what kind of energy the collector is carrying with himself.
Fascinating, isn't it? This
Very
changes the effects of the medicine, right? And it's a bit like any other medicine. Who brews the ayahuasca? The person behind who brews ayahuasca, and person that cultivates the mushrooms. What are their intentions?
exactly.
Right? So when animals such as frogs involved, do you fear that as humans we might endanger them because of our need, the way that we are?
From my perspective, we cannot endanger us from our need. If we collect sustainably, we cannot endanger it, but we can endanger every species on this planet by the way we are living.
Yeah, that's
And
my concern.
especially farming. Farming is the most dangerous aspect for our environment. It makes the most damage to our environment.
Yeah, right now probably it's the number one, to the planet. Okay, we're going to come back to that. I know that's why you're passionate about your regenerative farm land. So let's talk about the ayahuasca for the listeners.
For me, ayahuasca was one of the most profound experiences in my life. Was the exact opposite for Bufo experience, because I was exploring first 4 years very deeply Bufo experience, Bufo medicine, and went into this bubble of oneness, to say. And ayahuasca was the best counterweight, to say, and made the experience more complete, more wholesome.
Wow.
And for me, ayahuasca is one of the best tools to knowing myself, what's happening inside myself, and is basically the best doctor that you can basically go and talk with and have
Amazing.
best conversation in your life, to say.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also the medical aspects where we also clean by purging. And this is a huge aspect of the ayahuasca itself. It's a very powerful cleaning agent, to say.
Yeah, deep detoxification.
Detox, yeah.
Yeah, it's I heard that if the medicine is compromised, because I don't want to go into that conversation with you here because that's another conversation. There are so many people compromising ayahuasca brew because of this trendy, they call it ayahuasca tourism.
Tourism,
And
yeah.
I heard they mix lots of MDMA and other substances into the brew. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's really crazy. That's why I want to make sure our listeners are super careful, and they do their research, and they always pick someone they know and credited and trusted, because this is not a joke. And I remember the shaman that I worked with, she said, even when the brew is compromised, if you are an intuitive listener, like I think she got a message once that the ayahuasca talked and said, I am compromised, don't drink the second cup or something like that. So I know the plants are continually communicating with us, continually trying to end this arrogant way of being, even to a point mixing other substances and compromising these beautiful medicines, right? It's just sad. Yeah, so I agree with you about the communication and the doctor talking to you about what's wrong with you.
For me, the ayahuasca itself and Bufo itself is something that is endogenous.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I smoked Bufo on ayahuasca was almost 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience itself said to me, it's all you. There is nothing to be feared about because it's all you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get caught in this experience and if you resist the experience, then you can fear this experience.
Wow.
If we go relaxed and basically open, and there are not so stress factors that we are resisting. We basically saw with sharing Bufo Medicine that people that resisted the experience have the most difficult processes.
Yeah.
And
That's why you probably advise them to just be with it and surrender and trust. But these are the words that don't resonate with
doesn't
Western people.
no, and it's basically very hard to understand how to surrender and to let go something. Basically, and you don't understand until you experience this.
Okay.
And even the words that when we say just relax, let go, people basically don't get what they need from the experience. So in Bufo experiences, the last 2 years of my practice, I started to get active in the people's experiences. So I also smoke with people.
Okay.
And not with everyone, but with cases where I feel that person needs the support going through the process of the releasing, of letting go.
That's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like hand holding.
Exactly.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, and this is what it's all about, right? Facilitator, being a facilitator, being a conscious, compassionate facilitator. This is the job. This is the medicine carrying the whole, spectrum of the work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Talk to us about Bufo. How do we get it? Who founded it? Who founded and how did it came to our? I know this is quite a new medicine. They say it's a very new and
new medicine. Basically, there's not much information about indigenous use by natives, but there are some excavations where they found Bufo skeletons in altars from Apache tribe, Lakota tribes, and different tribes around the region of Sonora. And basically, the evidence around South America and North America basically shows that probably they have used it for sure, because there are pipes in a form of a toad for smoking, and different objects that resonates with the experience with toad.
Okay.
And Aztecs have their primal god is creator of everything, is in form of a toad.
Wow.
So there are connections that point that it could be used, but we are not 100% sure. But in modern times, in now 20th century, there was a hippie guy, Albert Most, now known by Nick Nelson, I think he's Nick Nelson, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently they made a documentary about this author who made a pamphlet, Bufo pamphlet.
I've heard Hamilton Morris talks about it a lot, right?
Yes,
Hamilton
yes.
Morris. I think he made the coming out into the public. Yeah.
True.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So interesting.
And the guy went to Sonora and tried to smoke that out.
Wow.
So he started to propagate the information around the festivals in America until year of 2011. I think the Mexican doctors, Octavio Retic and Gerardo Sandoval Isaac, the two doctors that people complain about their practice, but I experience with both of them. I personally didn't have bad experiences. Meanwhile, the ceremony, but the people I know had bad experiences with them. So one used electroshockers in the experiences and throwing water into mouths where people are unconscious. And the other doctor is using super high dosages that are basically quite dangerous for some people.
Yeah.
And with these super high dosages, you have reactivations, to say, if you want it or not. I know a group from Slovenia that this doctor came and made. Almost all people had reactivations because too big dosage.
What's a reactivation?
The reactivation is this happens especially with Bufo Medicine. Is can happen when you relax, can happen when you go to sleep, can happen maybe when you take another medicine, or when you smoke a joint.
So the experience comes back, you mean?
Yes, and it comes back not just in small percentage, but whole experience, full on. Yes.
Wow.
For me, it was a blessing. For me, it was so beautiful to experience the experience without any smoking or any stimulants, to say, and literally shows you that we are made of it, that this is just part of us, that we don't experience something from outside, but we just experience ourselves.
Wow, that's so hard to accept, isn't it?
It's very hard to accept.
So hard. Yeah. This is like the biggest problem in the psychedelic space. People are so finding it difficult to accept that these medicines, they don't bring anything from outside. It's already exists in you. They just give you a little. It's almost like unlocking us a little bit so we can experience.
Exactly.
Right?
And then the real work comes in everyday consciousness, in everyday basic life, where we go to work, where we have basic things to do.
Yeah.
And
yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. Do you know what happened on my last experience? The medicine said, we like you here, we like you having back, coming and so on and experiencing this, but your work is in the real world. Your work is in your everyday choices, like what's in your front of your nose. Your work is right there with your child, with your mom, with your dad, with your relationship, with your work, with how you are being in the world. That's the work.
Exactly.
So that was we know this is as an intellectual concept, but somehow the medicine has this authoritative way of making it feel in the bones, like you feel it in your bones. This is the truth. Yeah. So as we're coming to the end of our conversation, I just want to ask you a few questions. Tell us about your regenerative healing farm. And then I want to ask you a bit more personal questions, if that's okay.
Okay. Our farm basically started 6 years ago. We found a land, 1 hectare of land. It's 10 acres. And we started to build from natural materials. Now there are three houses. 2 houses for 1 house is from my family, my wife and 2 kids. In one house is my parents, and 1 house we have a ceremony space for ceremonies. And we just recently bought chickens, where we started to move around the farm chickens, so the land start to get regenerative, that
Wow.
carbon started to get caught back into the ground, much more than in the trees. And we started to plant fruit trees. Now we have maybe 40 fruit trees already on the ground.
Wow.
And we are aiming on not just self-sustainable, but with self-sustainability, we are on the same spot all the time. But with regeneration, we can get more than we need to say. So we can also give to people that are in need to say.
Amazing.
And my vision about this land is to make an example what is possible to make on one small piece of land, to say.
Beautiful vision. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's hard to convince people to see there is another way of living? Do they have to smoke, or do they have to take psychedelics to really see?
No, they just need to see that is possible. We just started to experience this in past year, where people just come on visit and they started to believe that it's possible to make a different life, to say.
Yeah. Do you think pandemic had a lot of played a part in this?
Yes. From my perspective, this pandemic is even not so bad. People will start to realize what is nature, because they are locked inside their homes and can just watch nature from windows. Yeah. And also they will start to cherish more the moments of their life, to say, because if we are honest with ourselves, with the way we are living, we will not last 50 years.
Wow, that's really deep. Yeah.
Because the land will not hold.
Sustain us all.
Sustain us. The land itself. And there's just small things that we need to change. There is not much things to change.
Yeah.
Just small things. But we need to get conscious about.
Absolutely. And one of my friends calls the pandemic rites of passage, collective rites of passage.
Collective rites of passage, exactly.
Yeah. And
we didn't have it as a Western society. We don't have rites of passages, but looks like we have one general right now.
Yes. Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of work to be done, and thank you so much for doing the work and doing your part in showing and leading by example what is possible. I think it's very inspirational.
Thank you.
And tell me about, if you was to explain your whole journey with the entheogenic medicines, apart from there being pure consciousness and everything, like your personal learning, anything you would like to say about this journey?
It's a most primal journey from me. for me was most primal journey. And this energy that lives in all the peoples of this world, to say, to that are connected to this planet, to Mother Earth, are basically aboriginal people that come from animalistic point of view. And for my experiences, these medicines make you human, more human that we basically are. We start to understand how and what to be human, what means to be human. And by years of experiencing this, I started to understand more and more the tribal people of the Amazon and different parts of our world, why they decided to live this way. Because it's not something that they didn't have, or they decided to live like this. Because
it's a choice, would you say?
Yes, it's a choice of way of living. Because we, as a human beings, when we turn off our minds, we see that in each moment we have exactly what we need. We don't need to build anything. We don't need to be anything. We don't need to do anything. Just being in the moment now and enjoying life, to say. And when you look in the people from the Amazon, especially the uncontacted tribes, where they basically even don't have numbers for counting their children or counting how much fish they caught. They have caught some, and they will eat it. They don't think about future, what will be tomorrow for eating, or what he will catch tomorrow for his dinner, but it's just constantly in the moment now.
That's beautiful. Brings me back to what you said earlier. We think we're in control, we're not. Seems like they embracing the uncertainty.
Exactly.
Okay, that's beautiful. So you are an artist, so you have a channel where you share your music, so you share your medicine. I will be adding all of your links to the podcast show notes, and so that people can connect with you, listen to your music. I had the privilege to log in and listen. It's beautiful, so thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to say to our listeners if they were to choose the path to explore the entheogenic medicines? What would you, if you was to just kind of give them two lines of advice?
Just listen to your heart, and what you feel the best for you is best for you. And if something doesn't feel right, it's not right. So every time is just about listening to ourselves.
Yeah, amazing. All comes back down to that, isn't it? Everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think building trust in ourselves is what we need going forward.
Exactly. The higher source, or God, or anything we want to call it, is always present in every moment, in every situation. And that was the main teachings of entheogenic experiences, because the experience itself is learning us how to die, how to let go.
Wow.
And is basically every experience is just preparing us for the big experience when we will really need to let go.
Wow, that's so deep. Thank you so much. So we are here to explore and experience and also learn to let go and be prepared to die.
Exactly. And by this, we are learning how to live full in each moment.
Yeah.
Because after we don't waste any moments anymore in our life. Every moment is super precious, super holy, to say.
Yeah. Sacred.
Sacred, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's it. There is no more to say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
It's been an honor also for me. Thank you for inviting me. And it was a pleasure sharing my life story and what medicine was teaching me in my life.
Thank you for all the wisdom. I'm sure we'll have you back very soon.
For sure.
For part 2.
I like to share about the experiences.
We need more authentic people in the psychedelic space to share it authentically and move away from what is not real and this whole trend and the whole thing. But we want to come back to center, to authenticity, the real.
The real now. Yeah. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Changal. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Give us a comment below. Share if you want this episode to be heard by anyone that you know. And stay connected. Stay well. See you guys on the next one. Bye for now. Much love. Thank you so much for joining us. Psychedelic Conversations podcast is designed to educate, inform, and expand awareness. For more information, please head over to psychedelicconversations.com. You can also share with your friends or leave a review so that we can reach more people. You can also join us in our private Facebook group to keep the conversation going. This show is for information purposes only, and it is not intended to provide mental health or medical advice. Thanks for listening.